They claim in the lawsuit that the school leaders encouraged other students and staff to refer to the young girl as a boy and even gave her a new name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's nuts.
well, yeah, this is super weird. But then this next sentence is very important. It says it remains unclear why the 12-year-old was seeing the counselor or how the gender identity meetings came to fruition. Was it specifically that she thought she was transgender, or was some counselor trying to push this on her?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I read this sentence, they gave her a new name. Like, that's super weird. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they gave her a new name, or did she give herself a new name? But I
Not
didn't realize that the
federal.
quote "Don't say gay" bill was also the you have to tell parents about,
Right.
your child's well-being in school bill too.
So this is actually in response to something. This is actually in response to this horrible case.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It
It's funny
is.
how the mainstream the don't say gayers aren't really talking about this case, are they?
Yeah, see, that is so foul and so disgusting. Then the narrative right now is just, oh, they hate, gay people, they hate trans people, you're not allowed to say gay. Nothing about
Right.
this. Like that the bill was, I'm assuming, was created in response to this event.
So this is the Daily Mail. This story was sent to me by, I believe, Trash Panda.
Mhm.
The headline is, let me get the headline here. Exclusive. They created a double life for my daughter, parents of girl 12 who tried to hang herself twice at school
Jesus.
after months of secret meetings about her gender identity, slammed district staff who went behind their backs and likened it to sex offenders who take advantage of a child and try to keep things in secret. So
Mm,
this story is very long. We won't read. We'll just read the first little bit of it. But
right.
there's a video here of the parents going off on the people, and I noticed James Lindsay too is comparing this kind of thing to grooming. He posted the definition of grooming that I didn't realize was just you know a indoctrinating children into a cult or a political ideology
Right.
is also described as grooming.
Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean sexual.
So I don't. This all definitely applies as grooming. But
Yes.
so here are the people. I brought the people up here so you can take a look. Here,
Mhm.
who do you think? Who do you think was the one involved in the secret meetings? I feel like
Uh,
I feel like this guy here might have just been an administrator who signed off on what the other people were doing. But
mhm.
I feel this gender ideology is a fucking cult. People do
Right.
not know that they're in a cult. The
Mhm.
the idea that there are a bunch of kids running around that are, I mean, obviously, I do believe there are people that actually have a thing called gender dysphoria. I
Mhm.
don't see how you can have that before puberty, right?
Right. Or not really understand if you do or not. I mean,
Yeah, it
I,
doesn't make any sense to me.
the big problem I have with a lot of this conversation, especially when it comes to young girls, is that like there's not a young girl I've talked to that didn't feel weird about going through puberty.
Yes.
It's like, oh, suddenly they're into boys or girls.
Yeah.
Suddenly like their body's growing, people are paying attention to them. Like every girl feels like kind of weird and awkward about this stuff. And to varying degrees. And it just seems like it's way too easy for that false positive to spout up in this situation.
Yes, children are impressionable.
Yes.
Young and impressionable is what they usually
Yes.
say. So, and I feel like these people, they have this ideological belief, almost a religious belief that, we got to save the children who are trapped in the wrong bodies. It's our duty to find the ones that are trapped in the wrong bodies and suss them out and take care of them, help them, save them from a
Mm-hmm.
life of tragedy.
Right.
Oh, this is so terrible. This is so terrible. So these people, they basically talk to the girl in secret, and they're so terrified that the parents are going to be upset. Spoiler alert, they are going to be upset. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to read a little bit of the story
Yeah.
at the top here?
The parents of 12-year-old Florida girl who, God, don't call her Florida girl, jeez, who tried to hang herself twice at her school after months of secret meetings about her gender identity are slamming the district staff who allegedly went behind their backs and created a double life for their daughter. Wendell Perez and his wife, Maria Perez, alleged the staff at Paterson's elementary school, where their daughter was enrolled, violated their parental rights by failing to inform them of the alleged gender identity crisis and developing a plan to help her address it without the parents' consent.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
Insane.
Yes. I mean, imagine if, like, this is insane. Your child at school thinks that they're, have gender dysphoria or something, and they're talking to the counselor. They don't inform the parents that any of this is going on.
Yeah. They're not therapists. They're not licensed to do therapy on children.
No, it's a fucking school counselor.
I know it's such bizarre overreach. How is this not cult behavior? I hope all of these people are reprimanded and
these people should be fired and sued, which I guess the county is being sued. But.
The county is being sued, but
right.
Yeah, like this is exactly conservatives' nightmare. This is what conservatives are talking about. And the people on the left are just so dismissive. Oh, this would never happen. Bitch, what are you talking about? These people are on a mission.
Right. Well, and there was a law, I think it was passed or being passed in Florida in response to this, which was that the school has to inform parents if there's some counseling issue like this. Yeah. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. Quote, we're talking about the staff from school, this information, and developing a plan of several sessions with my daughter for months, talking about issues that are related and that the parents need to be involved. Wendell Perez told Daily Mail, they basically created a double life for my daughter. We're not talking about an isolated incident that a little kid mentioned something. They acted on it for months. What is next? If we let them do that, what is next? He also likened the staff's behavior to that of a sex offender, saying, if we allow this to happen, we are admitting that the models operating of the sex offenders is correct, because that is exactly what they do. They take advantage of a child. They try to keep things in secret and make them do things that they are not supposed to do. Interesting.
Yeah. They're going to destroy him with that framing right there.
Well, they will for some audiences. Mm-hmm. They will for people on the right. That's not going to be very persuasive. That's going to be a big turnoff to people on the left.
So the parents are actually conservative Catholics, and that is why the school,
probably why they didn't tell them. Yeah,
that is why the school didn't want to tell them. How weird is it that you have teachers who are teaching kids what is basically an ideology that goes against the ideology of the parents, and they feel the need to intervene to the point where they're basically crapping on the parents' religion. This is, I mean, how is this any different than if someone in school, if the parents were like Jewish and someone in school was teaching the kid Christianity, saying, oh no, Jews are not going to go to heaven, so you need to, you basically need to become a Christian or you're screwed. It's the same kind of thing, only they will say, well, this gender ideology is different because it's based in facts, it's based in science. And I always say, what? What are you talking about? Based in facts, based in science. There hasn't been enough science done on this stuff to say that.
That's true. But it's a very thin line here, because I think if you're a teacher or counselor and a student comes to you when they have, it doesn't have to be like trans issues, but if they have some sort of belief that would be contradictory to what their parents believe, like say, we'll use your religious example. Okay. I think teachers and counselors should be able to try to promote kids to, figure things out on their own. Right. We're like, well, you can, you're a free thinking individual. You can explore things on your own, but without promoting that they do something specific. Right. And saying like, oh, you have to do the opposite of what your parents are doing, or you have to do what your parents are doing. And I think that's kind of the fine line that people should, in theory, walk. Now, obviously, most people are not going to have the intelligence, the training, the morality to walk that line properly. Like, if you have a young girl who's 12 and thinks she's transgender and she doesn't want to tell her parents because her parents are strict Catholic. Like, there's a way to handle that, I believe,
Hmm.
appropriately for a counselor's perspective to be like, well, maybe you're going to have to talk to a psychologist. Maybe, we're going to have to talk to your parents at some point. You can't just hide this from your parents. We're all going to have to talk about this together, blah, blah, blah. There's some plan of action that you got to figure out. That's
Hmm.
not what they did, which is to just say, oh, well, we're just going to go ahead with this and we're going to push you into trying to accept the transgender identity. And we're not going to talk to your parents about it. We're not going to talk to anyone professional about it whatsoever,
I don't think
which is what they
anyone,
did.
yeah, I don't think anyone involved in this story has any kind of training in psychology. Like they don't know how easy it is to prime people with certain beliefs. You read that book Influence by
Right.
Cialdini, and you lose all faith in free will. Like you just the 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 biases that we all have, confirmation bias towards just information that we receive first, is overwhelming. So if their first experience with sex and gender is this gender ideology that the left has cooked up, they're going to believe
Hmm.
that ideology,
Right.
and I think that's a problem. Like uh, parents, you know, understand that children all learn at different stages. This relationship development, sexual development, that kind of thing. Just thrusting them into these classes where they're teaching them this stuff where they're not necessarily ready is just, I think, horrifying. Horrifying
Hmm.
for parents who are not ready for this. I mean, when I went to school, there was a certain time that you did sex ed. It was like, I don't, what is it, like sixth grade, something like that?
Fifth,
10,
sixth grade
11?
generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Well,
guess this is
yeah, she's
a
12, so
12
this
year
would be
old. So,
after. Yeah.
okay.
Well, so it says that the school they claim in the lawsuit that the school leaders encouraged other students and staff to refer to the young girl as a boy and even gave her a new name.
Hmm.
And that's
That's nuts.
well, yeah, this is super weird. But then this next sentence is very important. It says it remains unclear why the 12-year-old was seeing the counselor or how the gender identity meetings came to fruition.
Well, we need
So
to get to the bottom of that pretty
right.
quick.
So hopefully with the lawsuit, more of information will come out because it's like, did she seek the counselors out? Was it specifically that she thought she was transgender, or was some counselor trying to push this on her?
Hmm.
Because when I read this sentence, they gave her a new name. Like, that's super weird. Like,
Hmm.
they gave her a new name, or did she give herself a new name? Like, that's pretty suspicious if someone at the school is like creating this new identity for her.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is it has to come down to
Mm-hmm.
I would I would want to I would want to come down on the side of not affirming but not denying. I think a lot of the problem is the first people the child encounters are affirmers. Like
Right. Of
they're
course. Of
structuring
course.
society so everybody immediately affirms.
Yes,
And
everything
my
has to
thinking
be
is,
this.
yeah,
Mhm.
my thinking is get a doctor involved, right? Like you
Right.
don't when someone says I think I might have cancer, you don't immediately affirm. Oh yeah, you have cancer. It's like, okay, maybe we should talk to someone who knows about
Right.
cancer before I just jump in and
Well,
say, yes, you have it,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Go
and,
ahead.
and part of my worry and part of the problem is that basically the trans activists are trying to push all psychologists and psychiatrists to just have this affirmative care model
Hmm.
where if someone comes in and talks to them and says they have gender dysphoria, it's not about them trying to determine whether they have gender dysphoria. The doctor just says, yes, you do. I'm just going to affirm everything you fucking say. Or you're not, I'm going to not do my duty as your doctor to try to figure out if you actually do or not. And this is sort of the dark road we're going down because once it gets to that point where every doctor is afraid to not affirm a transgender identity, then I don't know what you do anymore. There's no way to figure out anything.
Right. Yeah. It would be just as deadly as every oncologist affirming cancer without doing any kind of
Right.
real digging into the issue.
Now, this is interesting too. The article says that according to the complaint, the changes to the girl's identity increase bullying on campus which resulted in a level of distress escalated to the point of attempting suicide at school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is what's crazy too. The girl attempted to take her life twice. So there's two things that's really weird about this sentence. The first is that, so they're saying that the reason she wanted to take her life was because once she started transitioning to a boy, people were making fun of her.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the transitioning is what made her suicidal or something, which is strange. But then the second thing is that she tried to kill herself twice. Did the school know about the first time and still not tell the parents after the first attempt?
It does. The
Because if
article
that's the
doesn't say
case,
so.
I know, but if that's the case, it says that she tried to take her life twice.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, the school is completely screwed. They're gonna lose that. If she attempted to kill herself and they didn't tell the parents, then they're gonna just get blown out in court because there's no justification for that whatsoever.
Well, does it say if the case is criminal or civil? I'm not sure it did.
Well, no, this. I mean, they're suing for civil damages.
Right. So that's the problem, because the school district will more than likely just settle out of court with some financial,
Well, of course.
and some financial compensation. Will never really get to the bottom of any of this stuff until someone is actually going to bring criminal charges, which I would be in favor of. Like,
Well,
bring these people up on criminal charges. They did tangible damage.
right.
This is like gaslighting of the highest order. We need
Well,
to
we
get
might
some
find out information before the case is settled. So we might get to the bottom of, we might get more information about what's going on here. But I don't know. There might not be grounds for a criminal complaint because that
Well, I'm
might
sure
be
there's
why.
anti-grooming laws. That might be why he's talking about it in grooming terms, because he does want them to file a criminal complaint.
Maybe. I mean,
Because I mean,
it's probably
that's what they throw him in jail for, when the teacher has sex
right.
with a student and
Yeah,
whatnot.
but when if a teacher has sex with a student, they don't get thrown in jail for grooming laws. They get thrown in jail for rape or statutory
Right.
rape or something. And so
yes,
and
true.
since in Florida they passed or are trying to pass this new law about that schools have to inform parents of these sorts of conditions, that would maybe indicate that there isn't actually, even though this is a horrible thing that happened, there might not have
Right.
actually been a criminal law that was broken here.
Any laws?
Yeah, so
Crazy. Well, it did have a happy ending. She didn't commit suicide, and the parents found
right.
out, and I guess she's back to normal. And she didn't.
They said she's doing better, much better
Yeah.
now, so that's good.
Yes. Now that she's got the crazy leftist teachers out of her life, do you want to reference Marxism or anything before we move on?
Well, it's funny because I was actually just listening to yesterday James Lindsay's like 4-hour podcast on I forget what it was called, SEL. It's all about like critical pedagogy and grooming, and a lot of it is this, like, we want to teach all these children to be radical Marxist, and part of the ways they do that is by breaking down all standards and norms of society, including gender norms and gender standards, and that this is part of it. Now, I don't know if the principal or the counselor or anyone involved with this is like a radical Marxist, or they're just some moron who doesn't know what they're doing and just like, oh, if I'm going to be a good lefty, a good liberal, I have to affirm their gender identity.
I feel like that's what it is. I feel like that's what it is.
That's generally what it is in these situations. I mean, a lot of idiots wandering around, but
the purpose of ideology is really to take ambiguity out of any situation, so any moron knows how to act, right? Obviously, a therapist is going to see a ton of shades of gray in this situation, right? They're going to be very careful in any kind of assessment in this kind of situation, but the affirmers aren't careful. It's affirm only.
Oh, see, I didn't realize it says that in the article says that I thought they were two separate bills. It says that the bill called the Parental Rights and Education Bill would require school boards to notify parents about specific information regarding a child's emotional, physical, and mental well-being, and would also limit classroom conversations on sexual orientation, gender identity. So this is the bill that is that they're saying is the quote, "Don't say gay" bill that everyone's straw manning in the media right now.
That's House Bill 1557.
Yes.
That's in the Florida State Senate, right?
Yes.
Not
But I didn't realize that the
federal.
quote "Don't Say Gay" bill was also the you have to tell parents about,
Right.
your child's well-being in school bill too.
So this is actually in response to something. This is actually in response to this horrible case.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny how the mainstream the Don't Say Gayers aren't really talking about this case, are they?
Yeah, see, that is so foul and so disgusting. The narrative right now is just, oh, they hate, gay people, they hate trans people, you're not allowed to say gay. Nothing about this.
Right.
Like that the bill was, I'm assuming, was created in response to this event.
Or maybe multiple events like this.
Or other events like this, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like the anti-CRT law. That's so dishonest because you just look at the law and it's like, oh, you gotta tell your kids, you gotta tell the parents of the kids if there's some psychological problem in school, and don't talk about sex ed stuff, before third grade.
Yeah.
And they're freaking out about that.
Oh, I know.
They're freaking out that you have to wait till someone's 8 or 9 before you start talking about sex ed. Like that is so insane. It's so insipid.
What's happening? Sitch? What's going wrong?
It's just because you have the people that are like, you have the thought leaders against this stuff are the disgusting Marxist groomer types. And then you have all these normies wandering around that just gobble up the mainstream narrative and they just assume it's true. They just assume, which is, I understand why most people are in that bubble. They just assume that the things they see on the news are just automatically true.
Yeah.
And it's especially if you're on the left and the right's against something, you're like, oh, well, the right's evil, so I have to believe the left, and the vice versa of that. Everything's just so tribal right now.
They fooled Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, a
I
Jedi
know.
Knight, can't even discern the truth.
Mark Hamill tweeted out in response to the Don't Say Gay bill propaganda, he just tweeted out the word gay like a million times.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It really disgusts me because the politicians know better. The politicians are like the politicians, they've read the bill, I assume. It's not a long bill, and they tape, they put the piece of tape over their mouth with the word gay. They know better, and they're just trying to win political points here.
Yeah. Well, we have a real problem here to deal with that is actually affecting kids, making kids suicidal. And it's the fact that people just want to score cheap political points over it disgusts me to no end.
Yeah,
and these are the people who claim to care about the kids. They don't give a fuck. Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.